Good morning, Ambazonia. Shabbat Shalom. Today, na number 10 day for this number 9 month for the year 2022. My name na Capo Daniel, the Deputy Defense Chief and the spokesman of the Ambazonian Governing Council, aka Sense Pass King, una own countryman. Una welcome to our daily podcast, a program where we bring una the truth, fact-based analysis, meaningful information for help we as we work towards the journey to our freedom, the independence of Ambazonia. Good citizens of Ambazonia, the Bible says, only the truth shall set you free. Indeed, only the truth shall set you free. The Bible says, people die because of lack of knowledge. Indeed, people die because of lack of knowledge. When you lie or you distort reality or the truth, you reduce your credibility, especially the one of a position of a leader, a soldier, an activist. I have had a couple of meetings with Ambazonian soldiers, primarily the ones who were trying to enforce the lockdown using excessive force against our civilians. These have been very informative, and I am going to do a special edition of our podcast to inform the public about the details of some of those conversations that can be made public. Ambazonians across our national territory have followed our instruction, and for the vast majority have rejected this lockdown that have been forced upon them. Even at the point of gunpoint, they have still continued to resist. Indeed, Honorable Weber was right when he says that when injustice becomes law, resistance becomes a duty. We will get to that subsequently. But first, like I said, lies destroys an individual and it creates even more confusion. I will start today by the analysis of part of the speech made by John Akuru yesterday. He's somebody we respect and he's somebody we collaborate with. But that does not stop us from criticizing and having positive debates that can help our people. According to the information of our communication department, he have been reconciliatory. He had came out to support the AMF. I will still call them the AMF, who have transformed themselves into a group called Ground Zero Commanders and Generals. They have declared that school should resume on the 4th of October, something John Akoro came out to support and many activists came out to support. We have told them that that date itself is ill-advised, and I've told the Ambazonian people it is something that was generated by Atanganji Paul. We have evidence of that. Some things we cannot divulge because we need to protect our sources, but it will definitely be substantiated, and eventually the truth will always come out. Nothing can be hidden under the sunlight, as they always say. The so-called people who are claiming that they don't want any representative in the diaspora. We were in the diaspora together with their representative in the CDN. I'm going to release the picture of their leadership in the diaspora who is hiding behind this manipulation, lies, and distortion to lure in soldiers into a dangerous path that is going to destroy not just our people, but their aspiration for an independent homeland. But first, let us turn to John Akoro and some of the things that he has put out to help explain to our public and separate the truth from the lies and the distortion. We hope this is going to help John Akoro, who is somebody we love and we encourage, but nevertheless we owe it to the general public and the public interest to always state the truth and correct people when they make mistake or they make false assumption. When your assumptions are wrong, your conclusion and your analysis are definitely going to be wrong.
That La République du Cameroon set date for schools to reopen has come and passed, and that was September 5. Of course, we all know what happened on the territory of the Southern Cameroons, that at least at 90%, the people did not obey that order from La République du Cameroon. First and foremost, because it was on Monday, which is our natural country Sunday, our natural ghost town day. And then secondly, because there was also this call for a lockdown, which got mired into confusion and our usual misunderstandings sometimes. And this inevitably led to some tragedy that could have been avoided.
So, the first thing we want to let our people then know, now say when people want to lie, they use false narrative and they make false excuses. The whole issue where they talk say, the thing where they no one make schools is start for the 5th of September or the 6th of September. Now because na the day where La République du Cameroon, they the one for start their school. Now just an excuse where people then where they no one make community school is start. Would then show na say the people the way they be behind, they no actually want anything to do with school. There can be two reasons. One, because they themselves have not and they are not capable, competent to open school. The second reason is that they actually believe that school going on in Ambazonia will destroy the struggle, which are all wrong. The issue is not that our schools are starting the same day with La République du Cameroon. Schools all over the world starts in September, for the most part, in 90% of the countries across the world. It is not an issue of the date. The issue of the date is a false narrative or an excuse being used by people who have other reasons. The whole issue about school is about under whose authority and directives are school going on under. For us, it is about Ambazonia. For La République, they want it to be under La République. That is the reason why La République is banning schools that even have registered with their own ministry, simply because those schools have accepted Ambazonian guidelines. Today, we have received information of other ban of schools within our national territory by the colonial administration. The latest being from Kumba district, just as we have seen in Meme, in Boyo, and many other parts of Ambazonia. So the people who are making excuses that they are supporting lockdown because of the date of school, they are just making an excuse, because the people who are calling for the lockdown have actually said that the school should start on the 4th of October, which is going to sabotage Ambazonian nationalism. So which one is more important, a date of the starting of school or the Ambazonian Independence Day? That is why even John Bakoro will fumble with his mouth when he tries to narrate the reasons of his decision. Listen.
Tragedy said they want a situation where a lockdown goes into force right up until mid-September, because they want schools to rather resume either in mid-September or on October 4. A lot of those, or some of those based up.
So let me be clear. The people who are calling for the lockdown, who are in a chat group called the Ground Zeroes Commanders and Generals, they call for school to open on the 4th of October. They did not mix their word. They have it in video. They have it on audio. John Bakoro and many of the activists that supports them, they did support that agenda. The only reason why John Bakoro will want to be confused or pretend to be confused, that somehow they want schools to start in mid-September and maybe on October 4th, is because he knows that the point is not about the date that school will start, because as a matter of fact, it has been starting so forever. And the fact that they want to start school after 1st of October is counterproductive to our cause and our nationalism. So people start to make excuses when they are just wrong and they cannot admit that they are wrong. But the Ambazonian people know better. That is why they are resisting such unfounded, unjustified lockdown to stand up and open all community schools across our national territory. It is more important to score the point for Ambazonia and prove that our schools are being opened under our guidelines rather than sabotaging our school projection, especially when in the diplomatic front, at the corridors of diplomacy, the main issue is that school should go on. In the heart of our people, they want their school to go on. The right thing to do is for that school to go on under our guidelines. It is sustainable, and that is the only way forward. Those who are sabotaging the school opening, they are inevitably sabotaging our diplomatic effort and our positioning in the international community vis-a-vis attracting the right support that we deserve to have to push us across the finish line. Bet you Ambazonian can never be free just by us supporting each other. We need the international community for us to have our independence. We need it for us to have recognition. It goes with what we are demanding for, independence. It's something that does not just come from you. It also comes from the international community. Do not be deceived. Then let me take you to the next thing that I believe, honestly, it's a matter of misunderstanding with what is going on by many people in Ambazonia, which I want to use John Bakoro's presentation to correct it once and for all. Listen.
Those based abroad who are taking the reins of decision in our movement. And so for that reason, you will notice, and from the day the consortium transferred power from ground zero to the diaspora has managed this power of decision making in this movement jealously and solely, dishing out instructions that are simply obeyed and implemented.
So, without much ado, wait to wait John Bakoro talk na the big misconception that we done day. We don't always fail forget continuity. When a group of Ambazonia then do one thing, they will then lay a foundation, another one they go come, one can start lay their own foundation and go. We don't always fail for continue the movement and for always link with the past and for benefit for the experience, the expertise with veterans then get them. It be true for the SCNC. When they become start, they be ignore what John Gojidinka Ibidan lay foundation for. They even reject the name Ambazonia. And you still find that syndrome, they still go on where people, they still call Ambazonia, say Southern Cameroon. You go up for Skakuf. When Skakuf come, they be facing that they start the struggle. Ambazonian people should know the facts and the truth and should always maintain it in their logic. The struggle for Ambazonian independence started far before the plebiscite. It started in the conference in Manfe when our people decided to have outright independence. That decision today we see with the death of Queen Elizabeth III, pictures of our funds, including my own fund from Boom, who was part of the delegation of Ambazonian chiefs who went to petition the Queen of England that they want independence. Our quest for independence did not start with the movement of Ambazonian Rising, according to Gojidinka, as he has named it, as well as Pafongalafor, which have named 2016 as Ambazonian Rising, to fall no more. Ambazonian Rising was the rising of the civil society. It is not the beginning of the struggle. The struggle for our emancipation and our independence started way before the plebiscite, and it has never stopped. We should never make mistake. If we start to make this type of mistake, we will be blindsided by the work that have been done before us, and we'll continue to make mistakes that will only help the enemy to say that we are trying to create a new country that did not exist. We do not help ourselves with such a distortion. Let me take you to the crucial part of this presentation for you to hear.
Diaspora has managed this power of decision making in this movement jealously and solely, dishing out instructions that are simply obeyed and implemented on ground zero. But today, more and more, the actors on the ground, on ground zero, especially those who are carrying sticks, have decided that they want to be part of the decision-making process. We all know, and this is a natural phenomenon, power sharing is always a very difficult thing to achieve. And so, you have therefore that kind of seeming disagreement between the actors on the ground and those based abroad who are taking the reins of decision in our movement. And so, for that reason, you will notice that while those on the ground said they want a situation where a lockdown goes into force right up until mid-September, because they want schools to rather resume.
So the point where John Bakuro idi talkam, idi acknowledge say decision making and leadership it can be transferred to Ambazonia the way they out of the country. But the misconception way idi preach way na a very dangerous one where I want make our people them for here. Now the whole notion say the people in the diaspora or in the leadership in abroad are taking decision solely while the soldiers on the ground who carry weapons, who weighs the real power, are not making any decision. So a group of soldiers now want to make decision. These are based on false premise. This should be a reminder to all Ambazonians. When General Efang of the ADF, remember, the ADF is the biggest fighting force in Ambazonia. Love it or don't. That is just the fact. It is the only force with a command and control chain that crosses multiple units in different states. You have ADF, Fako Brigade, ADF, Bui Brigade, ADF, Lebialem, so on, Mezam. We go on and on and on. Under one command chain in ground zero. These soldiers have seen each other, they have trained together, their network is linked to their chain of command. They are not just a group of friends who are coming together who know each other. They are people who have taken an oath to defend Ambazonia under this banner. For anybody to think or to suggest that decisions made by the ADF are somehow not decisions made by forces on the ground is just defies logic, because 2 weeks ago or a month ago, General Efang have come out to announce a decision of a lockdown, which many of those people who are now contradicting this same principle or logic that they are professing rejected, perhaps because the ADF and the governing council leadership is based in the diaspora. But for them to think that the ADF are not soldiers on the ground simply because their final authority is represented out of the country is wrong and is a fallacy. The ADF is on the ground. The Ambazonian Governing Council is on the ground. The Ambazonian Governing Council is the biggest organization in Ambazonia with memberships on the ground, an affiliate and people who support the whole ideology of the Ambazonian Governing Council on the ground as well in the diaspora. The result of their support financially from Ambazonians, I mean real support, not the one that they make up amounts on social media, will show you that the AGOFC is the most popular and the most trusted, the most credible, the most reputable Ambazonian Liberation Front. This is not a brag. These are facts of the matter. So when people think that decisions made by soldiers on the ground are supposed to be respected, they should know that the ADF are soldiers on the ground. While John Bakuro have assumed that decision made by the leadership that is out of the country is done solely by the diaspora, they should understand that the Ambazonian Governing Council, our decisions are not made solely by the leadership in the diaspora. It is an organization that is well structured, that receives feedback, recommendations, debate, not just from the ADF soldiers, but from our partner soldiers and our sister forces that we engage them, including their representatives in the diaspora. We cannot make the same mistake over and over again. Just because a group of people call themselves a government does not mean that they are really a government or they really represents the whole territory exclusively, which only a contemporary and a legitimate government can do. So because a group of soldiers call themselves Ground Zero commanders and general does not mean that they are representing all Ground Zero commanders and generals. They don't represent the AGOFC. They don't represent the ADF generals and commanders. Definitely, even though they have pulled in some soldiers, lure them on false premises, like the generals of Sokadef, they don't speak for Sokadef. APLM speaks for Sokadef. So, if the whole logic is that you must support all decisions that are made on the ground, then what will make you to oppose the decision that was made by the ADF Supreme Commander General Efang? Is he not also on the ground? Is he not also wielding the weapons? The victory that have been given to us by the Ambazonian Defense Forces, the conception of self-defense, the inspiration of our youth, from our first blood, General Mba Ivor, to General Efang, are they not Ambazonians who are wielding the sword for us? The thousands of Ambazonian soldiers that have been raised up because they have been inspired by these soldiers, the network that they support Ground Zero, is that not critical? The forces that have paid the ultimate price under the banner of the ADF on the streets of Ambazonia, they have turned the main capital of resistance out of the most populous city we have in Ambazonia. Are they not worth your respect? No decision of the Ambazonian Governing Council is taken by the diaspora leadership. Any decision that is being taken in unison, in synchronology with the Ambazonian Governing Council on the ground and the Ambazonian Defense Forces on the ground. The people who don't want to accept decision made by the Ambazonian Governing Council's leadership, they only uses this as an excuse to mask themselves from facing the reality. As a matter of reality, you will always take precedent or take cue from the one that leads. The force that have led the issue of education should be the one that should have the most consequential part in decision making. The ones that lead should be the one that attracts consensus towards a final decision. These are principles embedded in democracy where the majority consensus should prevail. We must stop the distortion. We must stop the misconception. We must accept the reality of the people who are competent amongst us. We cannot reject things simply because we want decision making to be influenced by us. And at the same time, we are not proactive in terms of collaborating. We want to sit on our corner for others to back us because we think that we are so important and without us, this war cannot succeed because it takes a collective to win. So you will not volunteer yourself to join those who are leading efforts because you want them to come and back you. Have you think about the unintended consequences of this lockdown? Have you think about the sabotage at a moment where we have cornered Cameroon, at a moment when we can demonstrate the control of our educational system, at a moment where Cameroon is admitting defeat, their own analysts are being arrested for speaking out the truth? Wouldn't you want to demonstrate that the most? Fellow Ambazonians, hear it and establish it once and for all. The ADF is on the ground. Decisions that are made by the Ambazonian Governing Council are decisions that are made in synchronology between Ambazonian on the ground and Ambazonians in the diaspora. If your only objection was because the leadership is in the diaspora and the forces were on the ground, that your objection is not valid. And when you make a mistake or you make false assumptions and faced with the reality, with evidence of the reality, any person acting in good faith must bow to this truth, because only the truth shall set you free. Only the righteous and the just can be brave enough to embrace the truth and stand for the truth and defend it. Capo Daniel, signing off.